This is 7.5, part 1, the properties of trapezoids. So a trapezoid is a quadrilateral with exactly one pair of parallel sides. So that's different from the parallelogram that had two pairs of parallel sides. The parallel sides are called the bases. So here we have a diagram of a trapezoid. So this side and this side are the bases because they are the ones that are parallel to each other. The base angles of a trapezoid are the two consecutive angles whose common side is a base. So angle B and angle C would be base angles with each other because they share a single base. Angle A and angle D are base angles because they share a single base. The non-parallel sides, the other two sides of the trapezoid, are called the legs. If the legs of a trapezoid are congruent, then the trapezoid is an isosceles trapezoid. So just like we had isosceles triangles, we can have isosceles trapezoids. For non-isosceles trapezoids, really all trapezoids, you're going to have one pair of opposite sides are parallel, and the consecutive angles between parallel lines are supplementary. That means the angles that share a leg are going to be supplementary. So this angle here and this angle here, because they're on the same leg, will add to 180. This one here and this one here would add to 180 because they're on the same leg. If it's an isosceles trapezoid, it has those properties as well as the non-parallel sides, the legs are congruent. The diagonals are congruent. So this segment here would be the same as this whole segment here. They're no longer bisected like they were in a parallelogram or a rectangle or a rhombus or a square. They're just congruent to each other here. The base angles are congruent. So we have two different pairs of base angles. The two on one base would be congruent to each other, and then the two on the other base would be congruent to each other. And this last thing doesn't get used quite as much, but the opposite angles would also be supplementary. It's still going to be that the two angles on the same leg are supplementary, and that's probably the way that we'll look at it. So for our first example, we have a non-isosceles trapezoid. We just want to find the missing angles. So J and M share a leg, so these two angles add to 180. So I get 93 for angle M. And then this is another leg, so these two angles should add to 180. So we should do 180 minus 51, and we get 129 degrees. So here's a check-in. Go pause, give it a try. Answers are posted on Google Classroom. For example 2, we're just going to complete the statements about the isosceles trapezoid. So DG was a leg. We want to know what else is that leg congruent to. That leg is congruent to the other leg, segment EF. Then DF, which is a diagonal, would be congruent to the other diagonal, which is EG. So here is a check-in for you to identify which angles are congruent in the isosceles trapezoid. You can pause. Answers are posted on Google Classroom. For example 3, we now know it's an isosceles trapezoid. So the base angles, this is a base right here. So the two angles that touch that base are congruent. So angle Q is also 112 degrees. Angle S and angle R are congruent to each other. And if I look at a leg, I know the legs add to 180. So 180 minus 112 is 68. So each of these is 68 degrees. There's a check-in for you to try. Pause. Answers are posted on Google Classroom. For example 4, they want us to find the measure of angle R. So I need to decide, first of all, what kind of trapezoid is this? The legs are not congruent, so it's not isosceles. These two angles share a common leg, which means that they're supplementary. So we could do 12x plus 3 plus 7x minus 13 is equal to 180. So let's combine. We get 19x minus 10 equals 180. When we add our 10, we now have 19x equals 190. When we divide by 19, we get x is 10. And they wanted angle R. So we're going to plug it into 7x minus 13. So 70 minus 13, the measure of angle R would be 57 degrees. Here's a check-in for you to try. You can pause. Answers posted on Google Classroom. For example 5, they're telling me it's an isosceles trapezoid. I'm going to take this one piece at a time. MP is given to me here. NO is given to me here. These are the legs of the trapezoid, so that means they are congruent. So I'm going to set 16x minus 13 equal to 9x plus 8. So we'll get rid of our 9x. We'll add our 13. And we'll divide by 7. So we get x is 3. Then PN was a diagonal, and MO was a diagonal. And the diagonals are also congruent. So we'll set 12y minus 37 equal to 5y plus 19. So we'll get rid of our 5y. So 7y minus 37 equals 19. We'll add our 37. So 7y equals 56. And we'll divide by 7, so y equals 8. Here's a check-in for you to try. Pause. Answers are posted on Google Classroom. For example 6, we're looking for all 4 angles in the picture. So the 2 that I'm given share a leg, so they're supplementary. So we're going to add 10x minus 33 plus 4x plus 17 to equal 180. That's going to be 14x minus 16 equals 180. Add the 16. 14x equals 196. Divide by 14. X equals 14. So putting it back in for J, 10 times 14 minus 33 is 140 minus 33. That's 107. So angle J would be 107 degrees. And because it's isosceles, the base angles are congruent. So J and K are the same. So K is 107 degrees. And then we'll plug in for M. So 4 times 14 plus 17 is 56 plus 17. That's 73. And then M and L are also congruent because they're also base angles in our isosceles trapezoid. So they're both 73 degrees. And it makes sense that my 2 angles along the leg added to 180, right? 107 plus 73 equals 180. So here's a check-in for you to try. You can pause. Answers posted on Google Classroom. For our final example, we know that the trapezoid is isosceles. They've marked it as so. So these 2 angles share a base. They're congruent. So we're going to set them equal. So let's move our 6x. Let's move our minus 16. And we'll divide by 2. So we get x is 18. They want angles O and P, which will be the same as each other. These angles will be supplementary to these angles. So I'm going to have to plug my x in to find either M or N, and then take it away from 180. So we're going to do 6 times 18 plus 20. So 6 times 18 is 108 plus 20 is 128. So if this angle is 128, 180 minus the 128 would be 52. So the measure of angle O and the measure of angle P both equal 52 degrees. This is one final check-in for you. You could pause or end it. answers are posted on Google Classroom. And that is the end of the properties of trapezoids.